Hey, welcome to DALi TALK. And Excited Utterances here, dual streaming on her channel. So go over to her channel, give it a like, and subscribe if you haven't, and keep it open if you can. Give her watch hours. And of course, we're also here with the lovely Jamie.
Hi.
How are you guys?
Good.
Good.
So good.
Fantastic.
Phantasmo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just getting your link, and I'll put it in my chat.
Oh, yes, Eris has kindly put your link, and I shall pin it. Because
Thank
these
you.
days, I'm nowhere near as much of a noob as I was a week ago, and I can pin things.
Yay. Okay, awesome.
Thank
So
you,
yeah,
Eris.
we are going to be doing Mark Jensen's Pastor, because he's a
Pastor.
religious man,
I mean,
and I'm sorry.
I said he should be.
You would think so. And I think he is sending Mark to hell.
Oh, I don't know. I think Mark is in heaven. I don't see why he couldn't be.
I think he's learning things in this trial that are really disappointing him.
I hope he's not watching it.
I wonder if he's watched the testimony up until now.
Or if he's gone back afterwards and just like, God damn it.
He'll be like, I failed. I failed in my mission.
Oh my god.
Yeah. You know, what's it when Catholics go to confession? Yeah, I think
yes,
Mark left
for
some parts of,
reconciliation.
yeah, out of his
Yeah.
confession.
Yeah. I need you to do 10,000 Hail Marys.
Yeah.
And burn all those drawings.
10,000 dick pics.
No, he wants to see what he's got.
Hey, Dave.
David, where are you at the moment? Are you like in some sort of nether region?
Nether region.
He's in the nether regions? Whose nethers are ye?
Who's nether is he in?
I don't know, Netherlands, nether region. I don't know. I've had so little sleep, and I've been like working so hard on like work stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just like stupid right now. I gotta have my crazy pills. Hang on.
Oh, yes, important.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lefty. Nice to see you here.
Thank you.
What?
Oh, Jamie, you're right. Damn. Whatever it is she's laughing at, I need to go catch up on it.
I don't know what she's laughing at.
Oh no, who knows? Sometimes she just loses it. She's crazier than me.
Yeah.
Like, and look, I've got all the pills.
Maybe it was something in Discord.
For sure. That's what it usually is. And by the way, I need to put the link on, because if you're not on Discord, then you're missing out on all the fun.
And you got to be
You got to be a member. I'll show you how. There's a link. And you've got to be part of the MLS network. That's Making Law Simple Network.
Yes.
And Grifty Grift, here we go. So, I'll just get it for you. Consider becoming a part. Here we go. For live alerts. No. Here we go. Here, I post it. That didn't work. I went and posted two thingamybobs.
Amazing.
Eris, can you please delete my two things that didn't work? Thank you.
Reach around.
When I post in StreamYard and I post too long of a chat.
What are you laughing at, Jamie?
I broke myself. Don't. I don't know. I just, the way you said that to Lefty, it reminded me of something, and then I just.
Oh,
okay. You're amusing yourself.
Sal's rants, and I don't know why.
Right.
Phrasing.
Yep.
Okay.
What I was just saying is that when I put a link or something, you can't delete.
No
You can't
worries.
delete my post. Oh, really? Huh. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. When I put a chat in through StreamYard and it's too long, it actually lets me post it, but it puts it over several chats,
Yeah.
which is really embarrassing. Um,
Right, well, I'm going
anyway,
to go ahead and get started with our lovely pastor.
let's go.
Name and spell your last name for us.
Okay. Marvin W. Eckler, Oechler.
And everybody might be able to guess this, but let me ask you what you do for a living.
I'm a retired Lutheran clergyman.
Oh,
You're a
Lutheran
pastor?
church.
Yes.
Great. Mark and I can bond over our
Lutheran?
religion.
Oh,
Our
geez.
religion. Yeah, we're both Lutherans. We can talk about coffee and
My family is too bad.
Catholic Church.
Never went. So,
and insult the Catholic Church.
yeah.
I mean, say what you will. At least he's not, affiliated with as a Catholic. I mean, that'd be really bad.
You're going to insult the Catholics. I'm a Catholic.
Oh, well, that's awkward.
There's another thing that we can argue about. Fun.
Where did you grow up, Pastor Eckler?
In Kenosha.
Where were you a pastor? Where was your career?
I graduated from Northwestern Theological Seminary in Minneapolis, and my first call in 1961 was to Two Rivers. 1966, I came to Kenosha, St. Paul's Lutheran Church.
How long were
Spent
you?
29 and a half years there.
You were at St. Paul's Lutheran Church for 29 and a half years?
Yes.
Did you retire at that
I
point?
retired in 1995. And I worked part-time as a visitation pastor now in Wauwatosa Church.
What else have you done since your retirement?
Basically worked as some interim ministries in Kenosha and Wind Lake and in Kenosha again. Different churches there.
Do you know Mark Jensen?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
Do you know Mark Jensen's family?
Yes, I do.
oh,
And tell me, is this his mother here behind?
Yes, that's enough.
oh God.
Oh,
How do you-
that is his mom.
Mark Jensen and his family.
Well,
Poor woman.
father was on the call committee when I was called.
Amazing.
And so I met Daniel Jensen at that time back in 1965, and then came to Kenosha, and the Jensens used to pick up my children to take them to Sunday school because we only had one car at the time, and so it was.
Oh, look, he's like, I'm
Well,
so embarrassed right now.
You said that Mr. Jensen, Dan Jensen, that's Mark's father,
Yes.
was on the call committee. What's a call committee?
Call committee is a group of men and women who will go to a church and listen to or interview the pastor of that church, which happened to be me at the time in Two Rivers, to see if they would want to call me to their church in Kenosha. And so it's a group of men who are women and women that that will go to different places to interview prospective pastors for their congregation.
It's sort of the hiring committee for the
Yes,
church.
we call that a hiring committee.
You mentioned that the Jensens would take your kids to Sunday school. I take it
Aw.
because you were otherwise occupied on
Right.
Sunday mornings.
Yes,
That's
I was.
nice.
You came to Kenosha or returned to Kenosha in 1965.
January of 1966.
So did you meet Mark Jensen around that period of time?
Yes, I did.
How old was he then?
Let's see, about 7,
Oh,
6 or
baby
7.
Mark.
Well, I think about 7
Oh,
years old.
look at him. He's smiling.
Does Mr. Jensen have a sister?
Yes, he does.
Who is that?
Laura? Laura Costner?
Did you know both Mark and Laura as they grew up then?
Yes, I did.
Did you know Julie Jensen?
Yes, I did.
It's important to
When
have
did you
faith.
meet Julie Jensen?
Probably about the same time or shortly thereafter, during the early part of 1966.
How is it, and I take it Julie Jensen also would have been a young girl at the time.
Yes, she was.
How is it that you came to know Julie Jensen?
We were
Maybe
neighbors.
twisted.
We lived, well, our houses almost abutted on the back.
Your backyards were
Yes.
against each other?
Not really. She was a little bit west of our backyard, but it was an open field at the time.
Was her name at the time Julie Griffin?
Yes, it was.
Did you know the Griffin family?
Yes, I did.
Because they were neighbors?
Yes. And because we did things through PTA, I mean, we attended PTA meetings and things together.
Were your children similar ages to the Griffin kids?
Pretty much. If I'm like Julie, I think was 1 year older than my one daughter, and the boys were, the youngest boy I think was about the same age as my youngest son. So they're comparable ages, maybe a year or two off, but.
How would you describe the Griffin family, Pastor Eckler?
They were, I think, a family that was I think they were a close family in that respect. So they, I think they had, I don't want to use Tom, maybe use the word, maybe just they had some dysfunction.
Excuse me?
I think maybe some dysfunction in the family.
And what do you base that on?
2,800 dick pics.
No, he's talking about the Griffin family.
Oh, okay.
That there were some concerns in the family.
Objection on the foundation of this witness.
Hey, Pixie.
Were you aware
Hey,
of
Shelley.
any problems within the Griffin family?
I was aware that
Sean
brother, or our older brother,
and Wesley.
before we got there, I felt, and I.
Oh, is the father too
felt
loud?
The father was perhaps.
Objection, Your Honor. Unless there's a foundation laid.
I know what happened. I can hear him now.
You can testify to things that you know, but generally not to feelings that you feel.
All right.
Well,
So you
God
can-
told me.
You may testify to things that you observed that caused you to have the feelings, but not to the feelings that you had, all right?
I feel. The father was, I think, the strong member of the family. And he was, he always gave me the impression of being very, very strong and controlling the family,
Do you mean strict?
strict.
And what did you know about Mrs. Griffin, the mother?
She seemed to be a very nice lady.
Again, Your Honor, there's no foundation for this witness's conclusions.
No,
The objection is sustained.
Well, did you
and
know
I don't
Mrs.
like this. This is
What about Mrs. Griffin?
She was, to me, seemed to be a nice lady. I knew her, and she was quiet. And that's pretty much what I can say about her.
Okay. And
he's trying to get the family priest
at some
to
point, you realized that
say that Julie Griffin's family is
Jensen
dysfunctional.
and Julie Griffin were close.
Yes,
At some point, you learned
That's a
that they
bit
were married.
dirty.
yes,
Did they ask you to preside over that?
yes, they
marriage?
did.
Do you recall when that was, Pastor Eckler?
Was it 1980?
I don't like it.
Well, I mean,
1980, 81?
Got to get something.
Right,
This is he's a priest.
Either 1980 in that area.
yeah, but
Someone
I mean,
else.
it's true.
Are you saying the early?
He clearly doesn't know. And he's a priest.
And did you in fact
Is
marry
there no like
Oh, he
boundary?
married
attend
them.
the rehearsal dinner?
Yes, I did.
Was there anything notable about the rehearsal dinner?
Mrs. Griffin got sick.
Okay, and can you tell me what happened?
She had some bad orange juice.
She just sort of passed out or went into convulsions and was taken to the hospital.
Was that the night before the wedding?
Yes, it was.
Were you aware of what that was caused by?
Objection, no foundation.
Well, if he knows, he can answer.
There's no foundation.
Was it apparent to you the cause of Mrs. Jensen's or Mrs. Griffin's illness?
Yes.
Go ahead.
It was from alcohol.
Yes, Sal, you turned it down for no reason.
Did Mrs. Griffin attend the wedding?
No, she did not.
Did you see her on the wedding day?
Yes, I did. I went to the hospital to visit with her.
And who else accompanied?
Oh,
you?
that was her
It
mother,
was
I
myself.
think. Julie's mother, right?
Yeah, Julie's mother.
Did you see,
And there's
Mark
a
and
lot of
Julie?
talk about Julie's mother throughout the trial.
Yeah.
Julie's mother was alcoholic, but the family didn't know until one of their weddings. I can't remember whose wedding it was. But until they were all adults, she kept it a secret.
Good for her.
Yeah, somehow she managed to
Functioning
keep it a
alcoholic.
secret.
Who did?
She was
Mom?
Julie's mom.
the mother, Julie's mother.
How the hell does
Wasn't
somebody, an alcoholic keep it a secret? I've
I don't
never
know.
done that in my life.
I don't
There's
know.
functioning alcoholics.
Yeah, that's
But
functioning
you still know,
alcoholics.
because I mean, I've been around a lot of them.
Yeah,
But-
but it many people attest to it. They didn't know until one of the weddings. I think it was
Mark.
her youngest brother's wedding.
Okay.
Is Iris.
Yeah. Yeah, they knew they were in denial, maybe, but it was when they were adults that it came out that she was an alcoholic. But throughout this trial, it was
Yeah,
like
see?
they were functioning alcoholics. Yes, Al. Yeah.
Well, I mean, case in point, the Megan trial. I mean, the brother went on the stand and
Yeah.
was, no, he's not.
Yeah.
He was,
Yeah.
Although they
That's
knew
true.
they were just in denial.
yeah,
That's true. I mean, regardless of whether she is an alcoholic, regardless of whether there was any issue with the mother, it doesn't prove that Julie was some sort of crazy crackpot.
Yeah.
But they were the defense went to a lot of effort, and they're going to a lot of effort here with this.
Yeah.
For example, with this witness, to try and prove that she comes from this bad family and that she is nuts, basically.
Asian during the period of time they were married?
Yes, I did.
Did you ever have any occasion to counsel them during the period of their marriage?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
And
that's good.
what brought on that counseling and when?
It was in 1980.
She screwed a weird coworker.
No. It was when
Well, I get that they're functioning. It's just you still know. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1991.
Yeah.
When she
When that whore had an
was
affair.
called by her.
Hey, MG.
And what prompted Julie Jensen's call to you?
Hello, MG.
The marriage.
AMG.
Was there anything in particular happening at that time?
Not at that time.
And how did you handle the counseling issue?
Talked with both of them, and then I urged them to go to see a marriage counselor.
Why did you refer them to a marriage counselor?
Good point, Pixie.
We should have further counseling and something that I could not provide for them. I knew my limitations, and I decided that they should go on.
Were you aware of any affair at that time?
Yes,
And what did you know about that?
that
Yeah.
she had seen another man.
Was that one of the issues that related to the counseling?
Yes.
Oh, please. Wonder if he talked about the teen photos.
Pastor Eckler, you
Being
learned
left
at
around the
some point
house.
that Julie Jensen had passed away. Is that right?
I did.
Can you tell me how you learned of her passing?
I received a phone call from Florence Jensen stating
That's Mark's mother?
Mark's mother, stating that Julie had died and would I come over.
Was that on the day of her death?
That was on the evening of her death, the day of her death.
And what did you do then?
Can you take
I
some
went to the
antifreeze
house
that's in the
and,
garage home with you? Thanks.
Talked with them and
Yeah.
stayed until probably
Do you need to top up your antifreeze, sir?
Whose house
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Wisconsin.
Florence
I think your
Jensen.
car needs it.
Yeah.
Do you know what time that you arrived at the home?
I would say I got there around 6 p.m.
Who was at Florence and Dan Jensen's home that evening?
Florence and Dan, Mark, Laura was there, her husband. And I think the children, if I remember right, the children were there too.
Did you have a chance to observe Mark's demeanor that evening?
Yes, I did.
And how would you describe that?
He was very upset.
Oh, poor guy.
And I feel distraught and concerned
So
as to
sad.
what happened. Concerned that he couldn't get home to be at his house. Wondering why the district attorney was at the house.
Yeah, I'd be wondering too. Hey, wow, the elected district attorney is here.
this-
Looking.
Hey, that's
around.
interesting. Wow.
Oh,
Things that were,
I appreciate him taking a
of concern
thorough
to
look
him.
at this.
Fancy seeing you here.
You offer him counseling?
We talked for a while, but not counseling that evening, no.
Did you see him again during the course of the next several days?
Yes, I did.
And could you tell me about that?
Saw him on the day of the wake on that Sunday, and got there prior to visitation with the family, and we had prayer.
Yeah, actually, like if she was an alcoholic, the antifreeze wouldn't have worked on her. It wouldn't have unalived her. It's like functioning alcohol or like really big drunks are antifreeze won't take them down.
Together, and then I stayed through the wake that evening, the visitation that evening.
So you met with Mark at the funeral home prior to the time that the wake began?
Yes.
Do you know how long you spent with him that day? Let me say prior to the wake.
Probably about 20 minutes.
And
We had a little prayer service together, and then
who was there?
the immediate family, which would have been the Jensens, and if I remember right, the Griffins were there. Your Griffin boys.
What was Mark's demeanor at that time?
I think he was grieving. I believe he was grieving over the loss of his wife.
He grieves in his own way.
And did you have a chance to observe Mark at the wake?
Yes, I did.
Did you believe that he was acting appropriately there?
I would think he was acting appropriately. Everyone acts differently. but
Iris, hey.
At a wake, but I thought he was acting appropriately.
At any time, did you see him act in a way that you thought was inconsistent with grieving?
Not that I noticed.
And was there any occasion in which you saw him, or that you recall, in which he was laughing?
There could have been, but I don't remember seeing him laughing.
If there had been some laughing, would you view that as inconsistent with the grieving process?
No.
Now,
No, I'd say it's
I
pretty
take it
normal.
that a regular part of your role as a pastor over the many years that you've been a minister is to help people.
Many
who have a loved
husbands
one who
in
passes
his
away.
flock
Yes,
have
yes.
unalived their wives. It's
You've
very
been
normal.
involved in thousands of those occasions.
No, probably about 900 to 1,000.
Jeez, dude. Everyone
Is that
around
how
you is
many
dying.
funeral services you think you presided
Yes.
over?
Yes.
And even sometimes when you're not presiding over a funeral service, they'll come to you for support.
At times, yes.
Somebody should look at this priest.
Do you, in your experience as a minister, are you often the first person that will be seen to look for support?
Many times, yes.
And during those 900 to 1,000 funerals that you believe you've presided over, sometimes is there laughter?
Yes.
Why is that? Is that not inconsistent with grieving?
I don't believe it's inconsistent with grieving. I think there's times when something comes up and you laugh about.
I think my child's still
something you
in
did
bed.
or-
Excuse me
or-
for a
okay,
moment.
memory, and
This is getting
about it.
quite
It's
normal
not-
now, isn't it? It's
It's
happening
just-
every day. Excuse for a sec.
part of the grieving process.
Do you ever try to include some levity or humor in the words you speak, the sermon you give at a funeral service?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe that that's somehow some measure of disrespect for the person who's passed away?
No,
And why would you put humor in a service like that?
no. If it's not a good taste, I think it helps relieve some of the tension of the funeral.
And have you seen occasions at a funeral where a good friend of, say, a person whose spouse has passed away, where a good friend will try to release some tension on their own by telling a joke or remembering some humorous past event?
Yes.
Thankfully. Right? That's what I was thinking.
Based
Like,
on your
are we sure this guy isn't
experience,
doing it?
Over the years with many grieving people, do you feel that there's a single way in which people grieve Pastor Eckler?
No, I don't. There's a variety of ways that I may elaborate. I had a family who, a young boy of 12-year-old died of cancer. He'd been sick for a couple of years. And at the funeral at the church, we started off with, because he had a piano player or pianist that he
Penis?
knew.
Did you say penis?
Which was not religious at all. And we started the service with
It's a pianist.
Wisconsin,
Pianist.
which, because he was a fan and he got to go to the games a number of times because of his grandfather. And so we started the service with that, which some people may think would be sacrilegious, but I felt it was a good way for the family to be able to grieve a little bit easier, that we could do that.
And at all times, your observations of Mark Jensen at his parents' house on the night of his wife's death and at the wake and service, you felt was appropriate?
Yes.
There was nothing that you recall that you thought in any way was any measure of disrespect for his wife, Julie?
No.
Thank you, Pastor Eckler.
I mean, he did bring the woman he was having an affair with to the
Pastor
funeral, but
Eckler,
other than that,
when we're talking about a funeral or a wake, really you try to transform it into a celebration of the
Blue hair?
decedent's life, isn't that?
Many times you do, yes.
And
But
did
she
you-
also
did
went.
Mark
That's kind
Jensen talk to you about
Yeah.
ways that maybe he could transform this wake or this funeral into a celebration of Julie's life?
We talked about what we were going to do at the funeral, in the service. as an example.
Did he discuss with you the advisability of bringing his girlfriend to the wake?
No, he did not.
Did you know he had a girlfriend in the months preceding his wife's death?
No, he did not.
Fine.
well, he
Did,
needed
um,
comfort.
Did you ever meet Kelly Jensen, the woman who became Kelly Jensen?
Yes.
Did you preside over their marriage wedding as well?
I had a blessing of their marriage.
So neither Mark or Kelly tell you when they met?
No,
Did they
You
tell
gotta
you
move
that they
on.
met when Kelly was engaged to Mark Freeman?
Judge,
No.
these questions are irrelevant based on this
See, blue
witness.
hair.
I'm not sure that this witness
Wendy?
is, these are other than argumentative with this witness. They're
Yeah,
not
quit
going
being
to-
a dick.
They're not going to uncover
Hold
some
on.
new evidence. Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on, Judge, thank you.
Boom.
Pastor Eckler, in the grieving process, can you conceive of a
Oh,
circumstance
sorry, he said pianist.
for the grieving husband to high-five his father the day after his wife's death?
we'd have to know the circumstances.
Well, he just got his house back from the police after the police had investigated. Do you think it's a
Well,
normal
this is-
part of the grieving process for
This is-
a?
I
Hey,
object.
Shelley.
It's an argumentative, not relevant as to this witness.
Sustain.
Do you think it's part of the normal grieving process for the grieving husband to have his girlfriend move into the house within a few weeks after his wife's death?
And I object. This is all calling for speculation. It's argumentative. It's not appropriate to this witness.
Well, it is
Why?
responsive. However, the subject is, I think, been adequately covered. So, and the questions are principally argumentative.
No further questions. Thank you, Reverend.
The question?
No,
May God have mercy on your soul.
will you please state your name and spell your name for the court?
Sure, it's Jolynn, Jolynn, Blei, Blei.
And Ms. Bly, how are you employed?
I'm a legal assistant at Glenn Fitzgerald and LLP.
That's my firm.
Your firm,
How long have you been?
Oh,
almost 5 years.
And
What's
what
he
are
doing?
your duties generally? including that?
Investigator, I think.
Everything
she
from
works for him.
typing, dictation, talking with clients.
It's normal.
meetings,
Is it?
Yeah,
everything
you
that goes on
can't.
in law for
Well,
a day-to-day
in
basis.
theory, Jamboy made himself a witness in this trial.
Mhm.
But lawyers don't want to be put into a position where they're a witness because then they have to
No, I know.
testify. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know, credibility can be.
So he gets his legal assistant to be a witness,
Yeah,
right?
or a private investigator.
Yeah,
Oh,
interesting.
once again, if you could pull the microphone a little bit closer to you, Ms. Bly.
Nice. It's a good one.
You know Mark Jensen?
Yes,
He's been in our office a number of times over the past few years.
yes.
And when was the last time before today that I had seen you?
December 5th of 2007.
And where have you been?
At home, on
Because-
maternity leave.
Okay, you just had a baby girl.
Yes.
I need to find a document here, if you bear with me.
Looking for the documents.
Do you have the document?
So many documents. Finding the documents.
Come on. God. Guy's even worse at organization than David is in that court case he did.
Bring forth the documents. Where's C-swept when you need her?
Ms. Bly, let me show you. It's been marked as Exhibit D287. And do you recognize that as a letter from our firm's letterhead?
Yes.
Is that a letter that you typed?
Yes.
And it's for my signature?
Correct.
And is it to Mark Jensen?
I think there's a kitty cat at my door.
Yes.
I would move 287.
No objection, Your Honor.
Yeah, I see it, please.
Oh, thank you, Blue Hair.
Yeah, all right.
It'll be received. Ms. Bly, I invite your attention to the screen behind you. And back it up just a little bit. You can see that that letter's to Mark Jensen,
Yes.
and it says enclosed are the following materials for your review. Number one, testimony of Ed Klug.
He does give a good purr, doesn't he?
Yes.
And is that date accurate, August 10th?
Yes.
Klug transcript. One moment, please.
He's shook.
Let me show you what's previously been marked as Exhibit D25.
Hello, blue hair Bible lady. I don't know you.
Represented by number one, testimony of Ed Klug.
Yes.
Did you enclose that document along with this letter to Mark Jensen?
Yes, I did.
How are you?
Number
Nice
two,
to meet you.
Ms. Bly's interview of Mark Jensen on April 21st, 1999.
Yes.
Do you know what
Cute.
document that is?
Yes.
But I'm not into
Let me
blondes.
show you Defendant's Exhibit 142.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
Is that the transcript of the interview of Mark Jensen on April 21, 1999?
Yes.
Is that a copy of the document that you sent to Mark Jensen on
Please.
August 10th, 2007?
Yes.
How many pages is that document?
Well, easy, girl.
222.
Please don't drop it.
You recall sending that to Mr.
Mhm.
Jensen?
Yes.
Now, exhibits, well, number 3 says exhibits introduced at the forfeiture hearing during the testimony of Rhonda Mitchell, and number 4, other computer information previously received. Do you recall precisely what documents were included under number 3 and 4?
Not everything I would have sent, but it would have
Oh,
been.
those are all the
a PowerPoint
pictures of
presentation
every
that we
penis he
received, and I believe just some other computer information that we had in
kidding.
our file from that we received earlier.
Actually, it probably
I don't
isn't
remember
even
exactly what that was, though.
She's seen some things.
enough.
So
Yeah.
is that just a few
Yeah.
pages or a couple inches of material?
I think it
A
was
couple inches.
So
So it was D small.
Mr. Jensen
D small material.
had been out of custody for
Not
a number
necessarily.
of years, correct?
Yes.
Through the entire time you worked for our firm.
Yes.
And do you recall that on or about July 30th, 2007,
Not entirely.
he could no longer afford bail?
Right.
As
Because
of,
Jamboy was a
as
dick.
of August 10th, had you sent him much in the way of legal materials to the Kenosha County Jail?
Before August 10th?
Correct.
I don't believe so, no. I don't think so.
he had only been there about 11 days.
Right.
And was this the first batch of materials that you sent him?
I believe so, yes.
After this point, did you send him a lot of other materials?
Yes.
Twice or more every week you were sending some additional materials?
At least.
Oops.
Oh.
I'll do it.
Ms. Bly, have you had occasion to request at times materials from the Kenosha County Jail,
Yes.
from their jail records?
Yes.
But he can give you CPR.
I don't think he knows now. He's still questioning it.
Yes.
He still has questions. So I don't trust him to save my life. Sorry, Cal.
Certificate records of what?
Not that small. It depends on the person too.
Oh dear. Poor Sal. Everyone's attacking him.
You know, taking it personal.
Look, Sal has just about given up on the whole CPR
Yeah.
theory. He's about to admit defeat because he's wrong.
Offense exhibit.
No, because
288.
I'm not going to text my ex to confirm.
Actually,
Your ex is wrong if she said that, which I don't believe she did.
No, she really did. I just,
No way.
And the representations, I haven't looked at them. I mean, I just saw the first couple of pages, but I have no objection if that's what they are. I presume that Mr. Albie's telling the truth.
oh, you, I would presume he's telling the truth. Then he looks at the jury.
Ms. Bly, let me
Dick.
just take off the top few records here.
Oh, thank you, Nicholas.
Have you
You
looked
guys
at
are
those?
awesome.
Oh, yay.
Please like and subscribe if you haven't.
If you would turn to what looks to be the fourth page.
Yeah, we are covering, nice to see you, great success. EU and I are covering the Mark Jensen 2008 trial. I assume most of you know about it, but God damn it, Lefty. Basically, a guy is accused of unaliving his wife with antifreeze, and I swear to God. Thank you guys for coming in and checking me out. Really appreciate it. Yeah, please like and subscribe and check out Excited Utterance's channel as well. She's got some great content coming up. Thank you, Nick. I really appreciate it.
You ran out of things to talk about. Oh, Nick.
So yeah, Mark Jensen has a very interesting hobby of organizing photos of men by their size. So this is
And he also killed his wife.
allegedly.
No, he did.
Yeah, this witness is just like a paralegal for the defense. And then next we're going to be checking out, I think, the brother of Julie, his wife, and see if that's any good. No worries, Lefty.
That on top is
No.
jail management prisoner transaction list. Do you see that?
Yes.
And this is for Mark Jensen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, great success.
If we look, it appears that this is from
Andy's
July
Lutheran.
30th through September 24th, 2007.
Oh, yeah, Tia. Well,
Nice.
specifically, his folders were things like D small, D average, D large, oral 1, oral
Favorites.
2, favorites, of course. You got to have a favorites.
Yeah.
And he had like over 800 categorized. Oh, he also had a rulers folder, I guess, too.
Rulers.
Because, you know, it's hard to sometimes tell how big something is in a picture. So you got to compare it to something else. So he had a rulers folder.
Yeah, before he decided which folder to put them into.
Exactly.
Clearly. Yeah.
I mean, his computer's way more organized than mine. I'll give him that. He can teach a class.
And it shows
Maybe that's what he's doing in prison now.
Mr. Jensen received in the mail at the Kenosha County Jail.
Well, his wife cheated on him in 91. And for the next 7 years, he pretended he was the guy she cheated on him with, was stalking her and leaving photos of men naked. So I would say that's kind of OCD. You know, you got to admire his commitment, I guess.
Yes.
And we see that on August 11, 2007, there's an indication that he received 2 large envelopes from attorney Glenn Fitzgerald.
Yes.
And that's the firm I'm with, is Glenn Fitzgerald.
I don't know how he did it. Something that really bugs me. And I don't know. Hopefully I'll be able to get some of the folders. I don't know. But I am trying to get some of the evidence, including his manuscript. I'm hoping Rebecca, the court clerk, will call me back or email me tomorrow and let me know how much it is and get the ball rolling.
In Albee.
Yes.
That would be 1 day after you sent the letter.
Exactly.
And the attached transcripts and computer information to Mr. Jensen.
Correct.
Do you recall if you sent that information in 1 envelope or 2?
It would have been 2.
Was that because of the volume of the
Thank you,
material?
David.
Yes.
Let me ask you to turn 2 more pages to a document entitled Cell Transactions by Prisoner ID Number relating.
Oh, and I also plan on writing a letter to Mark Jensen. I'm still trying to figure out what I wanted to say. And, you know, oh, God, I should go to the Innocence Project and try to get them to represent Mark Jensen.
Yeah, because he's innocent.
Exactly.
Mark Jensen?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Did you say yes?
Yes.
Actually, we should probably contact them about Zach.
Yeah. Apparently, you can't use the Innocence Project for anyone who hasn't already been to appeal.
Yeah, you have to exhaust.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's Mark Jensen.
He's been to appeal. Yeah, he's been to appeal.
Yeah. So maybe we can.
Got a new trial. If he does it again and they let him?
Oh God, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Isn't he appealing
now?
He is. Yeah, he submitted an appeal.
Oh.
So he's not giving up.
He's not.
The implication is that
I wouldn't either.
Mark Jensen,
I know.
Was in the J block between August 24th, 2007. Actually, I guess from July 30th, 2007, all the way until September 19th, 2007.
Correct.
Let me have you turn the page to the very next page. And this relates to a prisoner named David Thompson, correct?
Yes.
There's an indication that Mr. Thompson arrived in J Block on September 6th, 2007.
Yes.
And it appears that on September 12th, he was removed to the K Block. Is that right?
Yes.
If that's correct, then he would have been in the J Block for 6 days.
Correct.
September 6th to September 12th.
Correct.
It happens.
This letter, 287, one one other question. The initials down at the bottom, it says CWA/JMB.
Yes.
And if you type out a letter, do you put that notation JMB?
Yes.
Those are your initials?
Those are my initials.
That's all I have. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Let's see. And I have not downloaded those yet. God damn it. Oh, this is just going swell. Wow. Okay. Well, no, I had it going, but there was a typo in the command screen. Well, actually, I guess we can just do it on the court TV feed. So let me do that. You know, it's very professional here. You know, I try to keep things running smooth.
And you do.
I do.
Great.
It's just going swell.
Going swell. Swell.
Well,
Swell.
Will you please?
So I'm going to change this. I know, Mads, I know. I'm hoping to have the rest of them downloaded soon, so.
State your name and spell your last name.
Patrick Griffin, Griffin.
And Mr. Griffin, where do you live?
I'm sorry,
Where do you live?
Los Angeles.
What do you do there?
I write music for TV and films.
And how long have you been doing that?
I stalk my victims.
he looks creepy.
15 years.
Okay, I'm starting to
In
believe.
addition to being a composer, are you also a musician?
Yes.
And
You
tell us
know
what instruments do
He
you play?
reminds me of
Play piano,
Smithy. Can you
keyboards.
pause it, please?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Tell me about your educational background, your marital background. Tell us about yourself.
Hold on.
Been married since 95, have 2 children, 4 and 7.
Pause it.
I'm
And
trying.
uh,
I did. Unless it's in another
what else
tab.
did you want to know?
Well, Mr. Griffin,
No,
you've
pausing.
been sitting here for most of the past several weeks of this trial, correct?
Mhm.
Did you hear the defense expert, Dr. Spiro, testify about your family?
Yes.
Did the family he was describing bear any sort of similarity or resemblance to the family that you grew up in?
I object, Your Honor. This should be focused
Hang
on
on.
specific
Can I pause it
issues.
for you? Right.
Okay,
Okay, that
playing.
stopped. That's not what I wanted.
Hold on. Just
He just shut everything down.
Shut it all down. Now I can't see him when I'm talking about who I wanted to say he looked like.
why?
That's not well. I am excited about Gosney tomorrow, but that's not what I wanted to say. No.
I'm trying here. I'm trying, guys.
What? Hey.
Is it
I'm
another
being-
browser? No.
I don't know. Okay, it's boomer time.
Anyways, while we have this time, are you going to talk about what's going on or no?
Oh, sure. Okay, I'll talk about it in the meantime. Right. So thank you very much. Hang on to MLS, who is in chat right now. Thank you, MLS, for helping to get the lovely Steve Gosney.
Oh, I found it.
Oh, you got it. Yay.
Yeah. Okay.
Steve
Yeah.
Gosney is going to be joining me on stream tomorrow with yourself, MLS, and Jamie and Sal, of course. Oh, there he is. And Nick, he might even turn up, even though it's going to be midnight his time. And of course, it'll be midnight for you, MLS, because you're going to be in Sweden. But you'll be on US time, body clock anyway. But Nick can't resist. He's like, I think I'm going to turn up. So yeah, Dingo Live tomorrow. We're going to talk about the dingo ate my baby and all of the crazy shit that went down. There's even like police tapes of them conspiring against her and stuff like that. So crazy stuff. Yeah, got all of the inside stuff. So, and we're going to compare it to like today and the cultural differences and the time differences and all the stuff that's different, but yet all the stuff that's the same. About like, it's really quite interesting how there's a contrast, but so much same about what's going on with things that are happening with trials now and trials back then, even in a different country, and even without social media. The same kind of shit happens. We're all human and we judge people. So yeah, that'll be tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Eastern.
Yes.
Back to the trial. And also, yeah, the reason I stopped everything was because he looks like Smithy from the Holderson trial.
Oh yeah, he does. Except he looks like if he was a serial killer, that's how he'd look. Smitty didn't look like
do you remember Smithy?
Do. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Smithy.
The guy who just flat out told the prosecutor he wasn't going to tell her how many guns he had.
Yeah. Because I don't trust police.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then who got him on?
Ricada.
Who got him on? Ricada.
Yeah.
Got him for an interview afterwards. That dude was funny.
Yeah, he was awesome. He's like one of the few like funny moments of the case.
That was
really supportive.
One of the few funny moments. The whole thing was hilarious. What are you talking
boring,
about?
Though. A lot of it was boring. Like
Nick, Dad.
Oh yeah. I mean, did Nick say that? I mean, yeah. I mean, you can make it funny. It's just like a lot of it was just tedious to me.
Lawnmower
yeah, that was funny.
Parents.
Yeah.
Lawnmower lesbians. Come on now.
Oh, no.
That was the best trial. And I know there was not like any defense whatsoever, but the whole thing was ridiculous. Like, come on. Alyssa Brandt and all the emails, SpaceX. Come on. That needs a rewatch, that thing.
Okay.
That needs a rewatch. Holderson needs a rewatch. Anyway, that looks like Smithy.
Yeah.
Moving on.
How long was that?
Of our activities, we had plenty of activities. I grew up in a family with brothers who were involved with music. Not so much sports, but music and art. My mother was very talented artist and was very enthusiastic about music too. My dad, although he never performed, I think he played sax in high school, but he was a music he appreciated music, and he was a big opera and classical music fan. So when I was 4 years old, I knew I was going to be a musician. I didn't know what type or what I was going to play, but I just knew somehow that was what was for me. And when I was 5, I started playing piano, and I took lessons for years. And
did your parents encourage you in that pursuit?
Yeah, they drove me all over town for lessons, and I took. In fact, my most notable piano teacher, who taught me for free and wouldn't accept payments for years of teaching me through. I had some beginning early teachers, but the majority of through late elementary through junior high and high school, I took from this sweet old lady who would not accept payment for piano lessons. And in turn, my dad would just do things for her around the house and fix up things and kind of take care of things for her. But
what did your dad do as you were growing up?
My dad was really intelligent. He was a brilliant engineer, designer. He was a farmer. Actually, he was raised on a farm, and I had learned later on, but he actually ran his dad's farm, who had a heart attack while he was 18 years old, finishing his last year of high school. And he told me he used to do the farm chores early in the morning, skip his first period of school, go to high school, and then leave as early as he could to get home and run the farm. And that's actually, he didn't go to into the war because he was a dairy farmer, and that they wanted him to be running the farm.
What did he do though? Where did he work when you?
He worked at AMC all of his life that I knew of. I can remember. And the thing I admire about him is because
Judge, may we approach? I'm sorry to interrupt. I thought you would pause, Mr. Griffin. I apologize. After this answer,
So go ahead and finish the answer and then we'll approach.
he worked at AMC and was an engineer and got somehow into the engineering department and was making a pretty decent income.
No.
However, the AMC engineering department moved to
No.
Detroit, Michigan.
This is the brother of Julie Jensen, Mark's wife, his brother-in-law.
And I admire him because he did not want to move his large family to Detroit, Michigan. And he took a large pay cut and did a totally different job at AMC because of not wanting to move his family to a large city.
Not really sea slopes.
As you were growing up, were you part of the Boy Scouts?
Yeah. Yeah, my dad was an active Boy Scout leader for a lot of my brother's years and first part of my years. And we were in a very active troop and went camping every month. And then once a year, we'd have at least one week-long thing. And he always remained pretty active, and all of his friends were in the Boy Scouts and stuff. So
Smart
Now,
man.
you'd heard testimony yesterday about one of Julie's brothers who had been found unconscious in a bathtub full of bloody water with his wrist slit. Was there anybody in your family that ever ended up like that?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Was there ever anybody in your family that engaged in any kind of a wrist-cutting procedure?
I had an episode when I was 16 years old, yes.
Yeah, we
I
all
want you to tell the jury about that episode.
Be right back.
The short version or the long version?
The short version.
The short version, I was a 16-year-old kid who made a really stupid decision.
Well, let's go a little bit longer than that. That's,
Back.
I had to look it up because I remember the specific circumstance. So I know it's definitely, I had turned 16 on, my birthday is June 12th, and the second week of July, I was playing this musical I used to play a lot of musicals at St. Joe's. They had Shows a Poppin', and I don't remember if this was Shows a Poppin' or just a musical, but anyways, I was performing this musical, and it was the musical Godspell, and it's a very fun musical, and it has a religious kind of background story to it, but the musical itself is fairly intense, and all the singers, dancers would
let's do it somewhere in between this real long version and the real short version.
Okay, sorry.
Then ask a question.
Let me see.
Oh, God.
Anyways,
You've been
it was
in
a very
that
moving
production.
experience to go through that production. So the opening weekend, we had a party. I went to the party. I stayed out very late, and I was just turned 16. I finally had freedom with the keys to the car, and it was a big deal because my dad had lugged my keyboard equipment around forever because I was always performing in bands and stuff like that. So I came home late. I don't remember exactly what time, but it was probably around 2:30. And my dad was pretty upset with me and met me at the front door and kind of was abrupt with me and, where have you been? Do you realize what time it is? And came down a little hard on me and then threatened to take my keys away. And I guess I overreacted I was really hurt by that and overreacted in anger. And
So what'd you do?
I stupidly thought, well, I'm going to get even with him. I'm going to, maybe he'll give me sympathy if I, take my own life. So my mind started racing of ways to kill myself. And I thought, I didn't want to experience pain. So I was thinking of ways I could do it, So I snuck out of the garage door and I went out to the car, and
That's
I had always
antifreeze.
locked my keys in the door. So I wired car keys underneath the car, and I was out there 10 minutes. I couldn't find them. And then I came back in and said, well, maybe there's another way. And then I remember I got a razor blade, and I laid down in my bed, and I didn't want to experience any pain. So I just, I really lightly just carved a tiny bit, just barely touching the surface. And I found that I did that light enough, it just became a little numb, and it just kept retracing it, and it became numb. I really didn't feel much pain.
Down the road, not across the highway.
And eventually it started to cut open, and little blood came out, and
I thought he was going to say that.
And then it was kind of numb, and I didn't move my hand for 20 minutes. And then,
Oh my God,
then it did
dude.
become to hurt. And by that time, this was probably,
Good Lord, this guy's a bigger wimp than me when I was in emo in high school.
3 o'clock, 3:30, something like that in the morning.
I
And I was really
could do that
tired,
to
and
myself.
I just fell asleep.
I'm confused. Is this the state's
And
witness
the
or
next
the
morning I
defense
woke
witness?
up and
Rebuttal state.
pulled back the sheets,
I
and
had no
there was
This
probably
is on
a
rebuttal.
little bit of blood spot this big, and it was like a nightmare.
Because the
I was
state would
like,
not be
"Oh my
letting him
gosh,
talk like this,
What am I going to do now? This is
surely.
terrible,
So what'd you do?
Well,
no, he
I
is
didn't
letting
know
him
what
talk
to
like
do.
it.
I was really embarrassed and ashamed, and I went. I was supposed to bring my dog to the vet that day, so I called up my best friend, Scott McDonald. We went,
Confused by this.
brought my dog to the vet, and on the way, I just had to stop and tell him. I told him the story and showed him my wrist, and he was pretty grossed out, and went to the vet. And on the way back home from the vet, he said,
The
goes,
vet?
you got to get that stitched up. You got to go to the hospital, And
Oh, the vet told you
I
that.
said, yeah, I
right.
know. So
No, his friend.
I went and I made up
Oh.
some
Get some
stupid
super
story
glue.
at the hospital, like,
Didn't take
oh,
his
a
dog
rake
to
fell
the
off
vet.
the wall and hit my wrist,
What?
And of course they looked at it
Okay.
and didn't believe me.
You
And
should go to
then
a doctor, not a
they
vet.
called my parents. That was it.
Was it both wrists or just one wrist that was cut?
One wrist.
Oh, what a!
Do you still have the scar?
Yeah, it's straight across right here.
I still got scars.
I don't know if you can make an exhibit. But
It's right there. Okay.
He did it across the
Yeah, let's come over here. Let's put on the overhead. You can sit in the chair here.
are you serious?
I'm serious. Come on over here. If I'm not going to do it, he's going to do it, so I may as well do it, right?
It's so weird. Stop.
Have a seat there. Put your wrists underneath there.
Oh my God.
Oh, I wonder if I can get the photo of his wrist. I was entered into
Oh,
evidence.
he won.
Here, I'll watch the screen and that's it. Okay, you can turn your seat.
That's it?
Good.
Why?
That is not the way you...
But why?
Dude, I have worse
So,
scars
no
from Babu.
unconscious
Hey, look.
boy in a bloody bathtub with both wrists cut.
No.
No. And after that, you went on to finish high school?
Yeah.
Went on to college?
Yes.
What'd you get your degree in college?
I got a degree in
Drama?
film music scoring and
Drama.
a bachelor degree.
I had no idea.
And that's how
Shelley.
you've been supporting yourself ever since.
Yes.
After Julie died, are you letting her bought her car?
Yes.
And when you bought her car, did it have license plates on it?
Yes, it did.
What are the, do you have the license plates with you? or
I
not?
don't have it with me today, but I do have it, and it's a specialized license plate that says my 3 Ds.
And can you bring that with you
Aw.
tomorrow?
Sure.
What?
He's got
Was
the
there
my
ever any
3Ds
history
now.
of psychiatric illness in your family?
No.
Is there depression that runs in your family?
No.
Do you feel that you've been a
Okay.
depressed person?
Now I see what he's
No,
doing.
not at all.
What about your brothers? Are they depressed?
No.
Any of them attempt suicide to your knowledge?
No.
Your mother was an alcoholic, right?
Yes.
And when did you become aware of the fact that your mother was an
I
alcoholic?
think it was after Julie's wedding. I
After
knew
Julie's
what
wedding.
it was at that time.
When you were growing up, had you ever noticed any unusual behavior? Now, in retrospect, you can identify it as being evidence of your mother's alcoholism?
Yes.
What were some things that you can now look back on in your mother's life or in your lifetime that would cause you now to, in retrospect, recognize that she was manifesting signs of alcoholism?
Well, even though I didn't know what alcoholism was at that time, I did recognize something was up sometimes with her. And the best I can describe it is that, in my own words, is she was kind of crabby sometimes.
Crabby.
And I would know
No, Hayden
when
Harris.
she was
This is
crabby, I
the
would just
brother
kind of
of
stay
the
away.
deceased.
And when she wasn't crabby, she was
And hi, I
a
haven't met
great
you
mom.
before. How's it going?
That was the extent of it.
And you were the youngest?
Yes.
Tell me about your sister, Julie.
Yeah, Hayden.
My sister Julie, there's 9 years difference between us. So she, in many respects, was like kind of a second mother to me. I remember on a lot of trips, riding home in the car or something, and she would be holding me or holding my hand or caressing my hair or something. And she was really, really nice to me. I loved hanging around with her.
Did you? When was the last time you saw Julie before she died?
I saw her we went there in July after the 4th. I think it was the weekend after the 4th of 98.
What was she like then?
She was taking care of her kids. I remember the day we spent with at her house, and I think the kids were swimming in the pool, and we were all in the back porch talking. I don't think Mark was there that day. So we were at one time planning a barbecue, but that just didn't happen. So we just had the kids get together and swimming at the pool. And then I think the next day we were at Paul and Jill's house, and the kids were playing
No,
and stuff.
he wasn't
and Mark
at the
was there that
retrial.
day.
So you got to visit with her a couple of days in July of 1998?
Yes. Yeah.
And what was your impression of her? Did she seem different than you'd seen her in the past?
No, she was her usual self. I mean, she wasn't jumping for joy, but she was loving her kids, and we were talking about family events and kind of typical.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Mr.
Judge.
Okay. I totally get what he did there now.
Your sister was 9 years
He was
older
just
than you?
trying to
I
prove
believe
that
so.
there was
Uh,
some normal
when you
kind of
had
teenage
this,
angst going on there, but nothing serious. And
yeah.
like,
Cut your wrists. She was, what, 25, 26?
Yeah, you'll have to do the math. I was 16 at the time. So
Okay. Well, if she's 9 years older.
okay, that's
Am I right?
sounds right. Then. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Did you talk to your sister about that?
No,
It was well known in the family what had happened?
I believe so.
If you find Paul the Fox, he has no excuse.
what's that? I'm like, something's being said.
And it appeared from when you showed us on the screen that
What?
your wrist was cut from all the way from one side to the other side.
Yes.
It must have required quite a few stitches.
Yes.
Do you know how many stitches were required?
Looks like 6.
6 to go all the way from one side of the wrist to the other side?
That's what it looks like.
I mean, do you recall now how many it was, or you're just going by the scars that are
Just
left
from
there?
scars.
Was that portrayed in your family as an attempted suicide?
We didn't talk about it at the dinner table.
So did you ever talk about it with any of your family?
Yeah, my mom and dad and my brother Mike.
But that was something that you, as you indicated, and understandably, you're embarrassed and ashamed by. Yes, for the court
Yes.
reporter. If that's, and probably something that you've felt embarrassed and ashamed about for quite some time after that.
Yes.
Still today, fair to say?
Yes.
With respect to your mother, you indicated that you really didn't know that there was a problem until Julie's wedding.
I knew there was a problem. I didn't know the label
I'll be
of the
back
problem
in a
and
few
what the
minutes. I'm
problem
just
was
going to take my
specifically.
child to her
Alcoholism.
place of learning.
Well, you had said she was kind of, I think you said crabby was the word you used.
Yeah, she had her crabby moments.
Moody,
Yes.
sometimes up, sometimes down. Sometimes an up mood, sometimes a down mood.
Yeah, but not to a great extent.
But, you attribute that to alcohol? Is that right?
Yes.
Do you know that now? That it was alcohol at those times she was moody or not?
I know she suffered from alcoholism. I don't know the. I'm not a doctor, and I have never attended Al-Anon, and I don't know the ins and outs of it.
And the reason that you first understood that your mom had an alcohol problem was at the wedding, though, right? That weekend?
No, it was afterwards that it was more discussed of her, what actually happened, and yes, that she had an alcohol withdrawal.
And that happened at the rehearsal dinner.
Yes.
And she did indeed have some sort of seizure that caused her to pass out and fall backwards or something like that?
I wasn't there. That's my understanding.
Okay. That was something that was discussed in your family that had happened?
It came up, yes.
Your mother was hospitalized as a result, correct?
Yes.
And missed the wedding?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Were you at the wedding?
I don't remember specifically, but I'm pretty sure I was.
Did you visit your mother on the wedding day in the hospital?
I don't believe I did. I can't remember. I can't recall.
How old were you at the time of the wedding?
I would have to look at a calendar. I don't recall.
Do you remember being at the wedding?
I don't specifically.
Do you recall your sister being about 26 years old when she was married?
That sounds right.
Which would have made you about 17, something like that?
Yeah.
And you have no recollection particularly of being at that wedding?
I remember, I confuse all my siblings' weddings. I really do. I kind of remember the ballroom of their wedding. I don't remember the wedding service. I remember the band playing in it. a basement ballroom, if I can remember, but I'm not sure.
And you don't remember anything about visiting your mom in the hospital at that time?
No.
So up to that time, your mother's alcoholism had been concealed from you, correct?
Describing it as alcoholism, I did not know that before that time.
You didn't know that she was over consuming alcohol, right?
No, I did not know that.
You didn't know that she had that illness, right?
Right.
And it was from your conversations within your family, was that also concealed from your other siblings?
I'm not sure. With Paul being 5 years older than me, they talked, I'm sure, a lot of things that I wasn't aware of.
And do you think in retrospect, looking back at this, Mr. Griffin, that your mom's alcohol use was maybe trying to self-medicate for that moodiness and that up and down mood that she had?
I would. Nation calls for speculation.
Well, what went on with your mother after the alcohol withdrawal situation at the wedding? Did she continue to struggle with alcoholism?
I believe so. I wouldn't know any specifics.
And is that because you were out of the house soon thereafter?
Yeah, it's because I was very active and pursuing education and career.
And you weren't aware of whether your mother was still suffering from alcoholism or problems with alcohol?
I believe at one time I became aware of it again. I don't remember when.
And ultimately, fortunately, your mother passed away in about 1991.
I believe so.
And I do recall roughly how old you were, or if it is 1991, you probably figure out about how old you were at the time.
Yeah, that one's, well, I got to do the math. I was in, I can't remember where I lived then. That was when I was in Boston still. I still lived in Boston, so that must have been.
Maybe you were about 25 or something?
Yeah.
In terms of this older brother, Richie, who died, what did you understand about the circumstances of that death, Mr. Griffin?
I understood that he had some kind of a stomach injury, and that's it. That's how he died. That's all I knew growing up.
Was there some story about other kids piling on him, maybe causing that stomach
There was
injury?
some story like that, yes.
So that was a story that was floated around the Griffin family, is that kids were piling on him and he had a stomach injury.
That's what I remember, yes.
And did anybody ever speculate about any other possibilities about the death?
Objection, relevance, what people speculate about.
Judge, family history exception to the
He's
hearsay
not
rule?
talking about history, he's talking about speculation.
You asked about whether there are any other stories floating around, isn't that what you said?
He said speculation.
Speculation, well, speculation story. That's not what I would call family history.
Well, Mr. Griffin.
You have to be much more explicit as to what you're talking about.
Okay. That's fair. Mr. Griffin, was the possibility bandied around that your mother had a role in that death?
Objection, Your Honor, this is hearsay.
Judge, I would, 90803.
But it's not, you're not there.
I thought 18 was learned treatises.
No, 18 is reputation concerning personal or family history. And just a reputation of family history is a long ways from, you asked about some stories flying around.
Well, within the family, I'm talking about. And I don't know, Mr. Griffin, so I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't try to do this so gingerly, but did you hear that within your family that your mother had some role in this?
Objection. It calls for speculation. It calls for hearsay. It's not the.
I have a feeling that the people who have developed the rules over hundreds of years drew a distinction between reputation and common gossip. You need to be clear in what your question is so that it can be determined whether it's a reputation or just a story that's floating around.
Within your family, was there the reputation that your mother may have had a role in this?
Objection, Your Honor. That's still speculative. The question is, why did you just ask the question? Was it the family history that his mother murdered his brother? Why not ask the question like that? That's the question, not whether there was speculation or gossip.
Just a minute.
And it's 9080319.
The objection is sustained.
And I don't want to go on against the court's wishes. Is there another way the court believes the question can be asked? I mean, I'll try again.
Is it the common belief in your household that your mother had caused the death of your brother?
No.
Was there any such reputation that you were aware of?
Objection. Among calls for speculation.
Among the family. I think that's the words of the statute.
That's fair enough.
No.
Okay. The reputation among the family was that it had happened with kids piling on him.
That's the story we always heard.
Hey, Jane.
In terms of, were you here when Mr. DeFazio was testifying, Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
And were you aware that your sister had ever been treated for depression?
No.
And you saw in the records that we went through that your sister had characterized to Mr. DeFazio that there was a suicide attempt?
Yes.
And since you're not aware of anybody else in your family, you presume she would have been talking about you?
Yes.
And would that be a fair characterization that was a suicide attempt?
Sure.
And that was, I think, as you said, at least partly motivated at the time by maybe revenge is too strong a word, but against your father, some trying to get back at him somewhat.
Yeah, I wanted him to feel bad for making
you feel bad.
Yeah.
That was a weird way to go.
When was the last time? I'm sorry. The last time you saw Julie was in July. Correct.
Girl smiling.
You had some telephone conversations with her in November.
Yes.
She didn't ask for any help from you, right?
No.
She didn't tell you that she had any fear of Mark?
No.
She did have conversation with you at that time about selling you her car, right?
No.
Are you saying you didn't have any such conversation in November with her?
Yes, there's no such conversation.
And how often would you talk to your sister?
Once every 2-3 months.
Maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 times a year?
Yeah.
And in terms of how she was getting along on a day-to-day basis, you didn't have that much insight because you weren't around.
Right.
If your sister had asked you for help, you would have helped, I presume?
Yes.
And I think you characterized when you saw her in July as that she was not jumping for joy. Is that what you said?
She seemed normal.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. That's all I have.
I know you're Your Honor. Mr. Townsend?
I don't have a witness that'll take 2 minutes, Judge, so I think
All
we
right.
should break.
Let's end the day. And I hope you have a great Valentine's night and that you have a safe drive home. And please don't read, watch, or listen to any account of the trial. Please don't talk with anyone or listen to anybody else about the trial, and enjoy the evening.
Well, tomorrow I intend to call Paul Griffin. Hopefully, Mike with the MyQD's license plate with him.
Hopefully what?
Hopefully, the MyQD's license plate with him. And just so that the court knows, I intend to introduce that license plate into evidence as a statement by Julie Jensen. But I want, at the close of the evidence, I want to photograph it and return the license plate to the Griffin family because it's a memento and they want it back. And then in addition to Mr. Griffin, I was intending to call Dr. Mary Mainland. There possibly may be a few friends, adult, contemporaries of the Griffin parents that I may be calling as witnesses. Trying to think if I'm forgetting something. I think that might be it. But, so aside from that, and I expect most of those witnesses to be very short, including I even think Mr. Griffin, Paul Griffin, will be a relatively short witness. I think I should be resting by tomorrow, finishing my rebuttal by tomorrow morning, sometime later tomorrow morning.
How long, Dr. Lewis?
Certainly less than 45 minutes, probably possibly less than half an hour.
Judge, I'm sorry, any other questions along those lines? I had some comments.
Open fire.
The judge, as the court is aware, I have not asked for instructions throughout this trial when evidence has not been admitted for its truth and for some other purpose. And I was, I don't know if I have a note here exactly as to the court's comment, but in terms of Laura Koster's being admitted on the subject of delusions. And again, I think it is, the reason I haven't asked for instructions on any of these subjects is because I don't think it's a reasonable inference to even consider that evidence in relation to delusions. And I don't like the court making any kind of suggestion that that's a reasonable sort of inference to consider it in the context of delusions. And that's why I haven't asked regarding other acts evidence or things not offered for their truth for any instruction that would suggest, well, this is relevant to motive or this is relevant to malice or any other such thing, because I don't think it's a reasonable inference to draw, and I think an instruction suggests that it is a potentially reasonable inference to draw, and that's why I haven't requested it. So I couldn't really do anything after the fact, but I do object to that instruction, which I think is prejudicial to identify Laura Koster's alleged statement and attribute it to some particular aspect of this case that I don't think the jury would ever see absent the court's notation. So I wanted to lay that on the record. I also
That they never see the evidence, or they never see the
nexus. Yes, the connection.
Well, the problem, and I understand you're making your record, but the problem is that this, much more than most of our other crimes, wrongs, and acts evidence, this has more of what you would complain about, which is prejudicial impact, because this does not prove the guilt of the accused. And to the extent that jurors would be sitting there and thinking, his own sister thinks he's going to kill her, it's a tempting situation for the jurors to conclude from that, well, if his own sister thinks he did it, he must have done it. So I do think that it has much higher prejudicial, and I've made no secret of that, much higher prejudicial possibility than other crimes, wrongs, and acts typically does. And I feel an obligation, even without you requesting it, to make sure that they understand that. And So I understand your objection, but I think that it was appropriate for me to give those instructions. And if you insist, I will not do it in the future because I've done it already 3 times. So it probably doesn't really need to be done. But I would be very surprised, by the way, if the district attorney did not incorporate that into his argument anyway. So indeed, I think they would see the connection. But I don't want to speak for him. But I do think the jury does need to understand that and not run the very high risk of misusing that evidence.
Well, Mr. Jamboys may make all sorts of zany suggestions in closing argument, but for the court to see the same relationship is going to be suggested by Mr. Jamboys. Don't see that relationship. That's my trouble with that, and I do believe this is very unfairly prejudicial evidence, and I think potentially becomes more so when there's a suggestion that it has greater probative value than certainly I believe it has. So I do, and believe me, Judge, this does relate much more to the entry of the evidence itself, but I do think this is just one more piece in the puzzle of things that I think would warrant a mistrial in this case because of putting in the unfair prejudice of the sister's statement, when I think it has minimal probative value, very significant unfair prejudice, and let me just say, I think the court's instruction doesn't help. I don't think it's what puts it over the edge. I think we were already there, but I think it just doesn't help.
Well, and in that sense, I'll reiterate again, I suppressed this evidence. This was not coming in, and you can thank Dr. Spiral for its arrival.
So I guess I could present no evidence at all in this case, but I think
when you have someone making a suggestion to the jury that the court should consider that this woman was delusional because she was thinking that she was going to be killed by her husband, then it's fair response for the district attorney to say, well, her own sister.
His own sister.
His own sister.
but it all depends on the ultimate fact, because if she poisoned herself, then that's outstanding evidence that she was delusional.
There's no sense our discussing it further. Hopefully I've put it into the record as best I'm able, why I've allowed it, and I felt I had the obligation to instruct the jury as I have, and because this is, as I say, I readily acknowledge that this has much more prejudicial impact, frankly, than I thought that the computer evidence about what was on Mr. Jensen's computer at work. I think this was much higher prejudicial risk in terms of how the jury might use it. So I felt it was necessary to give the instruction. But did you want to say anything on this issue?
No.
Okay. If you ask me to stop instructing on that, I will do so. I probably won't again anyway, but
I didn't recall the court tying it to delusions before, and maybe I just wasn't paying attention at some other occasion.
I think all 3 times I made reference to, in reference to whether or not Mrs. Jensen was delusional. And in fact, I think the last time I misstated it and said, with reference to her delusions or something to that effect.
I should have paid more attention the other times if that's the case. But the court may well be right. I think I sometimes am looking for my next question or something during those moments.
We all suffer from the same ailments. So you've given me kind of an idea about what's on the agenda tomorrow. And do you have, at this time, can you say whether or not you anticipate Sir rebuttal? And you don't have to answer if you don't.
No, I don't know. I guess at this point, I probably don't. To the extent that at least there's something that I'm contemplating, it can't be even a half an hour.
So there's every reason to believe we'll complete the evidence tomorrow.
I do. Yes.
And then you threaten me with an extensive instructions conference.
Well, that would
Can you give me a sneak preview about, so I can maybe read up on some of this stuff?
I wish I could, but I need to. I'm hoping Mr. Glenn might be helping me in this regard.
Okay.
I think there will be some special instructions we will be requesting. And I guess the last thing, Judge, just because I think it is so important, I would renew my request to put in all, or at least some of that stipulation regarding our meeting in chambers, because I do think essentially that self-report of the problems in the jail and Mr. Jensen's state of mind is absolutely relevant to what's going on with David Thompson. And to be clear, it's not offered for the truth. And when I say all or some, I think we can eliminate many of the particularized facts, but the fact is that he was having problems with Thompson, and that it was reported, and at the time, the state had not
usually
formed a
is.
defense at all that Mr. Thompson was cooperating. I think it's certainly relevant to Mr. Jensen's state of mind, and in particular, I characterize that as consciousness of innocence as to that allegation by Mr. Thompson.
And, Judge, the defendant has a constitutional right to present his consciousness of innocence. And the way he does that is by getting on the witness stand and testifying and subjecting himself to cross-examination. Because otherwise, this consciousness of innocence notion is merely self-serving statements of the defendant. They're hearsay and they're inadmissible.
Since Lenarchak, we threw out that whole self-serving analysis.
Well, we still have a state against Johnson that says it's hearsay.
Well,
and as I posed the same question.
It's not, number one, it's not offered for the truth. Number two, if Mr. Jensen took the witness stand, it would still be hearsay under this analysis. It's still me repeating what he told me. And it would still suffer from that problem. But it would also, because it's not offered for the truth, in neither instance is it hearsay. But Mr. Jensen taking the stand, in theory, wouldn't resolve the reason that the court is excluding the evidence.
That is offered for the truth of the matter, sir. Now, it would be different if the evidence were that if it were clear that it occurred before the district attorney. No, I don't want to say it that way. There is contrary evidence that the district attorney had received communication from Mr. Thompson before the notice that you got through other members of your team. And if it were clear that yours preceded the district attorney's awareness, and that's not really the correct one. It's
damn dead people.
When there was,
how dare they?
When there was a, well, I'll leave it at the district attorney's awareness because it's too complicated to explain before that. But certainly,
sure.
Where the evidence stands right now, what you got from your team is later than the district attorney became aware of this. So,
but there's no evidence. There's no evidence that Mr. Jensen knew that. And the reason this is not offered for its truth is because what I want to put in is the fact that Mr. Jensen reported this prior to being advised of it by the district attorney's office or anybody else.
Well, we don't know that though. I mean, well, prior to being advised by the district attorney, yes.
Probably go like
we
20
also
more
know
minutes.
that people are holding up pieces of paper to the glass, or at least there's testimony to that effect.
I haven't seen the piece of paper that says, I'm talking to the police.
You know, we could argue, but we're not getting anywhere.
I think this is a very, very critical.
I've got to make that happen.
That's why I raised it because
amazing! You can play YYZ. First of all, it's Y.
It's absolutely inadmissible and enormously important evidence.
I mean, I didn't invent the turtleneck, Lana, but I was the first to recognize its potential as a tactical garment. Tactical turtleneck, Lana. The tactile neck.
Enjoy the evening.
Thank you, Judge.
Sal.
I got some Archer clips today.
Sal.
What?
Context, Sal. Context. See, I don't know what that's about, but oh my God. I don't like that one. I like it.
And dirty woman.
That one I like. That one I like.
All right, we'll just do like that's from Archer, Mads
What's that song?
TV show. It's like a James Bond parody.
Oh.
It's a cartoon, but it's really funny.
Yeah. Okie dokie. My favorite one is Reach Around.
Yeah.
By far my favorite. Can you play it, please?
Oh, hold on.
Reach
That's all right, I'll
around.
do it.
Reach around.
Reach around.
That's goddamn classic.
Uh,
It's so good.
I think I might have played this before, but oh well.
What is it?
Just some funny moments of them arguing about what comes in.
Sweet.
Arranged for Mr. Alvey to have an opportunity to interview the state's forensic computer analyst, one of them, Marty Cook. And at that time, I had recalled that there had been some evidence that Marty Cook could have been testifying to, and I think the court had a number of months ago suppressed this evidence, but then that was at the same time that you'd suppressed the evidence regarding the entries regarding the defendant's interview with Kelly Labonte. The evidence that I intend to ask Mr. Cook about, and I wasn't going to introduce any of the evidence, pertains to 2,800 photos that were on the defendant's work computer that was seized in 2002 at the time of the defendant's arrest.
Let me try to make it short.
These are 2,800 photos of penises.
Let me try to make it short so I'm going to understand the issue from the very beginning.
What?
Is he able to date when the photos were downloaded onto that computer?
No. We just know that they were, at least I don't think he is. We know that they were on the computer. They were Mark Jensen's work computer. There are 2,800 photos of penises organized according to size.
I love the disgusted look.
Hang on.
That it's after Julie Jensen's death. You could say that. I don't think there's anything on that computer that predates 2000 or something like that. That's just for the court's information. I have a number of objections.
Well, Your Honor, if you'll remember, there was a conversation between Mark Jensen and Dave Nearing on some Friday afternoon after the Julie's death. And Mark Jensen was complaining to Dave Nearing about how he wanted his home computer back and the police were sitting on it. And Mr. Nearing had expressed the opinion, well, gee, it's a good thing they didn't take your work computer. And then Monday morning, Mr. Jensen told Mr. Nearing, well, gee, the hard drive is fried on the work computer.
Oh, is
So we have reason to believe that the work computer that was seized in 2002 doesn't contain anything that was on the computer in 1998. But that doesn't really matter with respect to this particular issue. As the court has previously noted, this is an interest of the defendants that predates 1998 and postdates 1998. And the fact that he was still fascinated with this in 2002 is further evidence of the defendant's preoccupation with this particular issue. And the only reason that the state seeks to admit this testimony is that it is relevant on the issue of who was leaving those photographs around the house in the years preceding Julie Jensen's death, particularly since one of those photos had written on it the words, "Is his as big as mine?" And once again, these are photos where many of them include yardsticks and rulers as a means to measure the object of interest.
The object of interest.
You don't
Judge,
know it.
From my recollection of looking at that CD, which is some time ago, because it wasn't going to be at issue in this trial, and there has been no notice until yesterday. There are a lot of pornographic photos on that.
Oh, those are Mark's
that disc,
parents.
Oh, yeah.
from the work computer.
Look at him.
sometime
So
after
disappointed.
2000 is my recollection. When I had looked at it, I didn't understand the basis for this claim of there being
Really, Jonathan?
any kind of categorization
Nice Lutheran
of
family.
the pictures. It's just, there's just lots of pictures on there. And
Mark.
so I don't even think they make that showing. To the extent they do, it's based on information I haven't been provided as to the basis for that opinion. And
The object of interest.
it's been years since I requested notice of intent to introduce other acts evidence, and this wasn't proffered. And now, as of yesterday, they're trying to forward it. I haven't looked at it.
No, please.
You haven't looked at it?
I don't recall it particularly well.
Don't blame
I'm
you.
not in any position to cross-examine about it. There hasn't been notice. I don't think it's relevant. Again, it's unfair prejudice.
It is a
It
bit of a
substantially
bit of a
outweighs
contest,
any minimal probative value it has.
Probative.
And I don't think there's any legitimate purpose under 90404.2. I think this would just add to the due process claim that I have, and I'd make it here that Mr. Jensen's due process right to a fair
We don't
trial
know
precludes the admission of this
that.
evidence. But I mean,
We're waiting
let me
to
just
find
say
out.
the notice claim, and that I'm not prepared on this. In addition, the court should be aware that I will have other concerns about Mr. Cook's testimony. The court may recall that probably in May, I filed motions in this case, and one of them was for specific notice of what experts would testify to. And in particular, I pointed out I didn't know what they would be testifying to on the computer evidence. The response to that motion was, you'll hear it at the forfeiture hearing. That will be your summary of what is going to be introduced through Rhonda Mitchell. And she testified, and then I had a summary, and I had no more complaints about Rhonda Mitchell's testimony. In December 10th, I think,
Good.
we had a hearing.
Yes, Shelley.
And
Like it.
I raised the same issue with regard to Marty Cook, and the state said, well, we're going to call him in rebuttal, and if he testifies, it'll be regarding the shadow. And that was pretty much it. I had earlier had conversations, and one reason why I was very concerned about the computer evidence is there are computer disks.
Yeah, I would be too.
At least numbered through, I don't know, 37, 38, 39 or something like that. And needless to say, I'm not eager to look through 38 computer disks and try to note any differences or anything else. I was told Rhonda Mitchell had produced two
That's so
computer
cute,
disks.
Lefty.
And I was told that
Lefty's expressing his
the
love for
testimony
you.
would be restricted to those disks. I also was
So
uncertain
romantic.
as to whether I had all the disks and whether I needed to obtain them, because if there's going to be testimony, obviously I'd get them. And Mr. Jamboy said he didn't think he had anything like 37 disks. And he'd let me know if they were going to get into some other disks.
100%
now, as of the last 2 days, I've been told that there's an intent to get into a different internet history here through Mr. Cook. There's a PowerPoint on index.dat files. And there's a bunch of new things that I didn't have any notice of. I'm not prepared in the slightest to respond to. It's not just a matter of knowing something about computers or being prepared for a cross-examination, but these disks contain lots of data. I haven't had sufficient opportunity to go through the data, try to decide what I want to do with it, what distinctions I want to draw. My expert is out of the country. I haven't been able to consult with him. And as I said, I asked for notice, I think it was in May on this, and I was told several times as to what the notice consisted of, and that my motion was moot because they had provided it through the forfeiture hearing of Rhonda Mitchell. As to this thing called the shadow, as I understand it, it's sort of a live demonstration of what they believe the computer user was doing on December 2nd and December 3rd. I have concerns there about the appellate record that might be created in this case, because as I understand it, he'll just be flipping through computer screens and it will not be preserved in any way. And I don't
preserved on the television, no?
Well, I don't think that's sufficient, because from doing appeals, not only the lawyer, but I'm sure the Court of Appeals would not be happy with having sites to some video to look at a screen as opposed to find some document that might be important with.
Well, I have to tell you that I feel that we in the legal community would embarrass ourselves if we refuse to embrace the technology of the 21st century in collecting and preserving
That's not
evidence.
the most embarrassing thing.
And instead said, well, no, we're not going to accept a video record which is made live and is being made, and say that say we can't admit this evidence because we haven't accepted this in the past. I mean, that's what gives lawyers a bad name.
That's not what I'm asking.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying.
The same problem came up with Rhonda Mitchell in her testimony at the forfeiture hearing. She's going to do a PowerPoint, and they just wanted to go through the PowerPoint without introducing what the PowerPoint slides were. And that's the way to create an appellate record. They were printed off, introduced into the record, and now everybody can see what was looked at on the screen.
Well, tell me why that isn't being accomplished by taking the, I'm watching it right now, 20-second delay or whatever they've got on there. I can look at it right now, what's being broadcast.
I don't think that's an official record that's been accepted by our Court of Appeals. I don't think it's
You're not going to tell me on this, but go ahead with it.
I don't think it's sufficient for citing the record. I certainly wouldn't want to be doing appellate briefs trying to have to watch video and cite that, and I don't think the Court of Appeals is going to want that.
I agree with you that would not be, we wouldn't want, although that seems to be the technology, that seems to be the way they're going, but no.
This is what I was saying.
But you're asking me to suppress the evidence because there has not been developed technology to do it, and I'm saying, what are you talking about? The technology is right in front of my eyes. I'm not going to buy that.
I'm saying there is technology.
Yeah, no, I was here
in advance. That's the technology.
No, that's not going to. I'm not going. I understand the problem the Court of Appeals would have with it, but I assume that it would ultimately involve watching an audio video record of whatever nature that's going to last whatever length of time the examination lasts. And I understand that wouldn't be good for the whole trial. That would be an awful burden on the Court of Appeals. But when you're talking about a specific exhibit, this becomes the exhibit. But let's not get bogged down on that. Your objection's in the record on that. As far as the shadow, do you have more objection to the shadow?
No.
Okay. Let me say that, first of all, I do think that the evidence that the district attorney is seeking to admit is relevant for the same reason that was discussed yesterday, and that is that you have to this moment you are denying, as I've heard and seen in this court, you are denying that the defendant is the source of the persecutory photographs which were being left, according to the testimony, at the Jensen home or at Mr. Jensen's office. And you're denying that. The district attorney is seeking to prove that he is in fact the responsible party, and that is relevant evidence on the subject of motive and malice of the accused, which is directly relevant to his whether or not he desired to bring about her death. And
but I don't understand the connection between photographs on a computer. Later on, given how much pornography is in there.
Colonel McCormick's commentary and all the others, but Colonel McCormick says the other act's evidence must bear the signature of the accused. Now, that is the historic view of it. It has to have the signature of the accused, which isolates it to one person. I understand that this evidence about the accused would not be as definite as that, but it certainly makes more likely, as I've said, and there's been a lot of discussion about personal sexual practices and modes of excitement. And there are more common ones, and then there are ones which are unique or or possessed by a small percentage of the people, and what the district attorney is describing sounds like it's way into the fractional, into the third decimal maybe, in terms of where you'd find that in the general population. I would think maybe I'm.
Well, Your Honor, certainly is what the defense counsel would describe as an outlier. Somebody
An outlier, yes. But anyway, so I think it's pretty close to being the signature of the accused, or at least signature of, what is the universe of people who would carry on a years-long persecution of either just Mrs. Jensen or these people? How many people who would fall into that universe would also have this peculiar fetish? So I think it's sufficiently close to the signature of the accused that some people would look at it as the signature of the accused. So it is for a valid purpose, because the defendant is denying that he participated in this conduct. So the district attorney's got a right to say he's the one who did it.
Well,
or to show that he's the one who did it by linking it to this other evidence. Now, having said that, we're at a point, Mr. Jamboys, that I'm not sure that there's going to be a whole lot of jurors still in doubt about this subject, a question of whether or not the defendant has.
I would agree with that.
So it strikes me as what the objection that Mr. Albee has been often phrasing during this trial, 90402, that to use the exact words of the statute, it's 90403. Although relevant evidence may be excluded if its probative value is,
Your Honor, may I just speak?
David did a breakdown on this
substantially again.
Actual
really?
argument and Schroeder's deliberation about it, that he's speaking aloud. If you remember that when David did his stream about what is evidence, and he actually had invited me to be on the stream, and he was talking about this exact moment in this trial where Schroeder sometimes annoyingly speaks aloud for quite a long period of time in order to make his ruling. But David was saying that it can be interesting, especially even for lawyers, to be able to listen and his thought process, because he actually speaks aloud why he is ruling the way he is. And when he was talking through what is evidence and what is allowed in, he's talking about the difference between probative value. So 90403 is about what is considered probative evidence, and he's actually prejudicial evidence versus probative. Yes, and he just explained that the motive and malice is leading to the signature of the accused, and so the leaving of the dick pics for 7 years actually is showing a sort
malice.
Of a malice, and it's showing that is something that whoever did that is pretty likely
has a motive.
Has a motive, and is also pretty likely to be the person who has 2,800 dick pics on their computer, right? So there's not likely to be two people getting about
Mark
that
Jensen
have that
got
same
done in
fetish.
because he had 2,800 dick pics on his hard drive.
Well, kind
if it
of,
wasn't for those nasty dick pics, he would have gotten away with it. Like
exactly.
Episode.
Yeah, pretty much. So Schroeder's speaking aloud, basically saying that I mean, I'm going to let this in because what the state's trying to prove is that that's the signature of the accused. That's his signature, the signature of the accused. Anyway, we'll let him keep speaking, but he is actually, sometimes he can be really annoying the way he loves the sound of his own voice, but he's speaking aloud.
There's a reason he does it.
Yeah, because it's also for the record.
Yeah, it's because the appellate court wants to know what he was thinking at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
it's annoying, but it
yeah.
is good for, appeals and everything.
Yeah. So if you were to look up 90403, which is what he's just referred to, you can actually match up what is in that legislature and then go through what he's saying.
And my camera stopped working.
It is not working, but I was too busy focusing on what I've written down here. Yeah, no, not really so much on the piece, but on how it relates to this. And yeah, you can go through this video here, and you can look at that document, and you can match up what he's saying exactly to 90403. And you could keep playing it now.
Okay.
That's a blood on
it says if its probative value is substantially outweighed
by its unfair.
Well, I don't want to get into the unfair. I don't accept that it's unfair. As I've said before, this is evidence not of deviance, but of kinkiness. And so I don't think it's so damaging to the accused in terms of
you should get that.
The jury convicting the man of this very serious crime just because he have a strange sexual practices, as opposed to someone who would be a sexual deviant. And there would be the risk of an unfair conviction. But it is a needless presentation of cumulative evidence. But it says substantially outweighed by the danger. That substantially outweighed only pertains to the danger of unfair prejudice. It does not pertain to the needless presentation of cumulative evidence.
Yeah.
And you just acknowledge that one would think there would be a small number of jurors, if any, who would at this point not have an understanding that the defendant has this fetish.
Now, Your Honor, if I may briefly respond to a number of things, and I'm concerned about the appellate record here because counsel has now recounted.
You were concerned you
wouldn't heavily parsed history.
Oh, let me respond to that about his claim of failure of notice. I will tell you that as I recollect the discussion of the evidence you say that what I suppressed, which indeed I did discuss a large volume of evidence that wouldn't be received of this nature, but I thought that pertained to photographs of acts of fellatio taking place.
Look at this.
I don't recall any mention. This is news to me about these measurements and 2,800 photographs.
That's why I want to make this record. Okay?
Go ahead.
Because if the court will recall, there were a number of pretrial hearings in this case back in 2003 and 2004, leading up to the first trial. And at that time, there was an anticipation that we were going to be trying this case in Kenosha County. I had discussed with both Mr. Albee and Mr. Glynn this evidence of 2,800 photographs organized according to penis size. And that's how it is organized. However, Mr. Glynn and Mr. Albee did not want this stated on the record in court for fear that it would then be publicized in the Kenosha News and that it would influence the jury pool, potential jury pool against their client. Now, that's why it's important that I make this supplementary record. There's not a shred of doubt, and I believe that Mr. Albee will confirm this, that we had these conversations off the record between Mr. Glynn, Mr. Albee, and myself and Mrs. Karaskevich, where we were talking about these 2,800 photographs that were on the defendant's computer organized according to size of penis. Now, the only issue at that point was whether or not the state was going to be delving into this other act's evidence about leaving these photos around the house, because the evidence is equivocal. At that time, it was even more equivocal about whether it was the defendant or somebody else that was leaving those photos around the house. As we got closer to trial, it became clear to me that we were going to be seeking to introduce that evidence.
Leave them around the
so
house.
The only reason that there was nothing on the record about those 2,800 photos is because defense counsel has specifically requested that we not talk about it on the record for fear that then Ms. Hansen from the Kenosha News is going to do a story about it, and it's going to inflame the jury pool against the defendant, even if the evidence turned out to be inadmissible. Now, so when Mr. Albee tells you, oh, this is a surprise to me, that's pure nonsense. He knows it's not a surprise. He knew about those conversations. It's inconceivable to me that he forgot that conversation, just as it's inconceivable to me that Kelly Labonte forgot the conversation that she had with Mark Jensen.
Let's get to the root of the issue.
Do you want to respond?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is, Judge,
Hey, phrasing!
I never made a claim, and so I shouldn't have to defend myself, that there wasn't discussions about these pictures at some prior time. I believe some of those are on the record. We just didn't show them. And Mr. Jamboys is right. There were some things we did off the record. But
About 2,800.
well, I think that's on the record. I think that's on the record somewhere. But the problem is I have continually, through this trial for 5 years, asked that I get specific notice of what they intend to use so I know whether we have to argue about it beforehand so I can prepare my trial accordingly. And State versus Fink
parents are still in the room.
and the general practice of most courts says you get notice of your other acts evidence, and that's what we asked for, and the court has said. In fact, I know there's a court order in the past saying you give notice of any other acts evidence you intend to introduce.
Yeah.
And in this trial, since we've prepared, since this case came back from the Court of Appeals, there's been no notice. And so I didn't take it into consideration.
Of course there wouldn't be notice because it was agreed between the parties so that it not be part of the public record. And I will tell you that I didn't have any discussions with you lawyers that are not on the record.
No, that's not at all. Again, the state wavered as to whether they're going to try to introduce that evidence or not, and ultimately decided they weren't pursuing it. And that's where I've gotten no notice. And if Mr. Jamboys wants to recount some conversations since 2004, that's fine. I'll listen to that. But I recall 0 conversations since this case came back where he said he was going to introduce this or requested a court ruling on it. In fact, we've had a number of hearings at which the subject was what specifically will be permitted in this case.
Well, let's get to the bottom line.
What's the
How much time do you need to prepare
Get to the bottom
for
line.
the evidence about the 2,800 penises organized according to size?
I don't know what the basis is for saying that they're organized by size, because I
Oh,
looked
come
at
on,
this a
dude.
long time ago and I don't understand it.
Well,
So you just said you hadn't looked.
That would make it even kinkier, but I mean,
Well, he can ask the witness that on cross-examination. He asked him that last night in the foyer, in the break room. And the witness is prepared to testify. It was organized
ruler folder
on
a clue?
folders and organized and entitled Big, Bigger, and things
He's
like that.
laughing.
And then contained in there
Look at
were
it, look at you.
photographs that reflected the title of the file.
we're back to
Look at him. He's like,
my question to you, which
he does.
is,
He loves talking about it.
why is this necessary?
more of my-
Why isn't it cumulative, and why isn't it going to slow us down?
folders like
Here's first of all, I was going to ask Mr. Cook maybe 5 or 6 questions about this. So it's not going to slow us down in that sense, unless defense counsel wants to cross-examine Mr. Cook and his conclusions that they were organized according to size. It's not time consuming. I'm going to be presenting it in a way that is as non-inflammatory as possible. I'm not going to be producing any of the photographs. I'm not going to ask him to show any of the photographs. I'm just going to ask him what they found, and he's going to describe that. It would take less than 4 minutes for that exchange to occur in the courtroom. And in terms of, let's remember what my burden is. This is a circumstantial case, Your Honor. We don't have any confessions to committing murder in this case. We have a poisoner who worked very, very hard to conceal his tracks. The state has a tough case here. Now, I think we've put a lot of evidence in, but our obligation, Your Honor, is to persuade every single juror beyond a reasonable doubt. I believe the vast majority of the jurors in this case are ready to accept the proposition that it was Mark Jensen that was torturing his wife over the years preceding her death. But I don't know that all of them will. There may be some. There may be 1 or 2. There could be a holdout who's saying, no, I'm not satisfied of that. I want to reach that juror with this evidence because I have the burden to persuade a unanimous jury beyond a reasonable doubt of the defendant's guilt in this case.
I want to touch that juror.
Mr. Alvey?
With these pains.
I've made my record in terms of signature that the court was talking about.
Jamboy here's trying to shove my face in it.
There's nothing, the photographs that are left behind prior to 1998 are described by Mrs. Jensen of being of her. There aren't pictures of just penises
Jensen heard
left
guilty.
behind at that
He was
time.
looking at the jury form and stick to see
So
how big he
there's
was.
not this signature that the court is talking about, that there were
Yes,
all
Steve.
these.
He's not talking about any other photographs, he's talking about.
That's exactly what he's saying.
Right, but the court is talking about signature, which means that there has to be a match between the signature post death and the stuff that was left for the harassment, because it's only being used to bolster the harassment issue. And the harassment pictures aren't of that same kind. They supposedly involve Mrs. Jensen. They're not computer generated. There are none of these. The other thing, there's none of these photographs that were supposedly left that Mr. Cosman and Detective Ratsburg saw. There's been no claim that what they saw on the computer later on matched what was left behind. So we don't have a signature. We don't have a signature between what's there in 2002 and what was left behind in the harassment
You're
activity.
talking about matching of the photographs, and he's
Please show
talking
off
about
time.
matching of the
Hello.
Junior doesn't like it.
particular modus or practices of the accused with
He was cleaning himself.
with what was done
Oh,
in
nice.
terms of leaving
Say hello.
photographs and with writing on them about commenting on size.
Well, supposedly there was one photograph mentioned by Mr. Cosman that was written on, and of course it's not in
don't
evidence.
care,
They
do
don't
you?
have it.
No.
So I mean, that
Do
doesn't
whatever I
seem like a modus operandi when we have
Modus operandi.
this happening over a period of years. And Mr. Cosman said it was all sorts of different kinds of sex acts.
Well, he's leaving
Depicting a woman, Julie
dick
Jensen thought it
pictures
was
for
her,
his
and that's why
life.
she was
Maybe
so
he's
embarrassed
like
by
a
it.
cat and won't just leave mice
Well, it's
for
close
their owner.
case. I think I'm going to decline it on the
Mice.
basis
He
of
thinks they'll like
cumulative
it.
evidence. I'll tell you this, as I said before, I'm of the belief that the jury should get as much information as possible. And the
Then
court's
show them every
function is
photo,
to
damn it.
suppress only that which absolutely needs to be suppressed. So it's a very close
I really
case,
want to see
so
his
much
rulers
so
folder.
that I would say this, if you want to renew your request, if the defendant takes the stand as to whether or not he may be cross-examined about this material, that I'll leave that in
Sorry, pal.
reserve to determine that, depending on how the trial progresses.
No, Val,
But I
really?
think,
Trial's funnier.
I know
I'm
it's
going to
awful.
exclude this on the ground that it is
Hot.
I feel sorry for you, Val.
unnecessarily cumulative.
Yeah, 2,800 dick photos.
All right,
does
anything else
seem
before we start?
A tad cumulative. I don't know
Yeah.
about you guys, but
Well, it's cumulative, but it's not like you have to show them all like over and over and over
No.
again for like a day. You don't have to go through them.
no, it's not like
Like-
Murdoch
Yeah.
prosecutors.
No.
Now, is this a dick picture?
Okay,
Now, is
I
this a
suppose
dick
it is.
picture?
Does
Now,
it
is
belong
this
in
a
the?
dick picture?
Is it in the right
Is-
folder?
Is it in the right folder? Would you say
Yeah.
this is D small?
Should
You
we
put it in
measure
D-
it with the rulers?
Is this a bad check? Is this a bad check?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
all he wants to do with them is make
rub the jury's face in it.
Yeah, like
Touch that one juror
oh my
with
God,
it.
Exactly.
touch that one juror with the tip.
Yeah.
Just the
Just
tip.
the tip. Just the tip.
No, but like he just wants to throw all that stuff out there so that they can be like, look at this sick MFer.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
I mean,
That's
he has a point, but
He had a problem. Look at him. He's got all these.
hey, we all have hobbies.
Yeah.
Have you had
But like they don't really make any, because if she was just getting pictures of like a woman and a guy doing it, like not
Well,
just
some
like,
of them were, to be fair.
I thought most of them were, because I remember from the second trial it was just a lot of like,
There was a lot of oral photo. He was obsessed with oral.
yeah, but it involved somebody. It wasn't just a
Yeah.
just
No,
a,
no, no, he was
I
like
don't think it
trying
was
to-
just
by
penises.
itself.
No, you are right there, Jamie. That it wasn't just penises.
I mean, he's
yeah.
not gay.
What?
But-
We don't know. But
I don't know.
like, we don't know. He could have
Exactly that.
bi tendencies. We don't know.
I
I
clicked
used
a
to
it's
coin
try-
as a
hilarious.
kid.
Don't get me wrong, but it's just like
I mean,
Oh, you're definitely right about that, Jamie. They were not necessarily the same kind of photos that
yeah.
were supposedly sent or arrived in the mail
Yeah.
or were put around the house.
I hope you
The
had some
ones
black
that-
one. 'Cause I don't
they
want
were-
to think he's racist.
Yeah, they were supposedly like photocopied, like on Xerox paper.
Yeah.
And there were some that better likeness to her, but
Yeah, he
not
tried to,
necessarily
like,
were her.
Show photos
Um,
where she couldn't tell if it was
She
her. or
couldn't
not.
tell. I'm imagining that they were like because the only way, because we're talking 90s, right? So
Yeah.
there wasn't, and
Oh,
early
yeah.
90s even. So
Yeah.
not even, it would have been hard to get photos off the internet and print them out
Oh, I
early in the
had to
90s.
use Chat GPT to ask how long it took just to download them.
Yes, but early in the 90s,
Yeah.
could you even download like porn from the
Yeah.
internet? And could you?
Porn was like the first thing
early
that
90s?
it was used for, yeah.
I
If you had a
mean,
computer.
they didn't do it, but like, wasn't it just pictures? Like,
Yeah.
couldn't you, like pictures? It wasn't
Yeah.
really like
Okay.
videos then. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know. So I'm wondering whether or
Exactly,
not he
Val.
actually.
What?
One
One
line
at
at
a
a time.
Of course, yeah, it would be one
Oh,
at
I
a
got her
time.
head. Okay. Now, got her shoulders. Okay. Come on. Nipple. Okay.
But it
10
could
minutes
have
later,
been.
stomach.
I'm actually thinking what he might have done.
That'd be hilarious because it probably took forever just to get
One
to get
picture,
one
and then you realize.
It's absolutely. It would have taken
You needed
forever. However,
dedication.
I think what he might have done is actually gotten real magazines and cut out people and cut out photos of Julie and put them like on a piece of white paper and photocopied them, because that would have made a lot more sense and been like quicker and more efficient way of making the same effect, and he would have gotten the look that they're referring to. Like it looked like it was her face next to penises is what they were talking about. And it sounded like, how could you make that happen with downloading porn from the internet in the early 90s? Like, doesn't make any sense.
Well, he was determined.
Well, he was determined.
He was dedicated to this.
Yeah. He was dedicated to his art.
Dedicated.
Hey.
It was,
You gotta respect that.
Well, I mean, he wasn't that good at sketching. So maybe he was good at photo collage.
I am still looking for that snippet of his book. I'm downloading the whole trial. Maybe I'll do it on like
it's
4
it's there somewhere.
I know. But there's so
But the
much.
thing is, it's only a couple of frames. That's the problem. And you know, when you're scrubbing through.
But
yeah, but the actual pictures.
Oh yeah.
Like they're only like frames in and out. And when you're scrubbing through, it's really hard.
Maybe I should just. I don't know. I don't know if it was like if it came in, or if it was just like an argument outside the jury.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'll just play the guy I think it is, even though I've gone through it at high speed a few times.
Have you played the rebuttal?
Some of it.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Look, I can probably go through it on later in the week.
Okay. I'll talk with you.
Yeah, cool. We'll find it.
Yes.
We'll find those
we
pens.
will find it. We will go on a journey.
Well, I believe MG Law is streaming soon.
By the way.
I'm sorry?
I said I gotta go take the dog.
Okay. Yeah, we gotta go. It's been fun.
Did I hear that MG Law is streaming soon?
Bradley Yohn trial.
Yeah.
At 9:30, I think, Central Time.
Yeah.
Check him out.
Do we have a link in chat?
I don't know if he set it up yet.
Yeah, he did, but I don't know.
Okay.
I think somebody posted it a while back.
Yeah. But yeah, check it out. MG Law.
I think Shelly might be still here.
So yeah, I'm not going to stream tomorrow because EU has her special stream.
Do they not have any Purse House tomorrow though either?
Oh no, I don't believe so.
Okay, because if Purse House is on, okay, right. Because if there's no Purse House, then that would be cool. And yeah, that would give me some time in the morning before we start to get all set up. But if there is Purse House, then we could do an hour.
Yeah. No, it'll depend, but yeah, you should still plan on doing it tomorrow.
I'm doing tomorrow anyway.
Okay.
Tomorrow's happening. Yeah. Right. The Dingo Live is happening. There is no question. Right. The Dingo Live is happening. Right.
Yes.
But if we have California versus Perth House on tomorrow, then
No,
that
it
should still
won't.
happen too. No.
Yeah, I don't think it will happen tomorrow. Or I mean, it's happening, but it's delayed 24 hours, so I doubt.
Oh, then we wouldn't be doing it till the
Yeah.
day after anyway.
Yeah.
Perfect. All
So I'm not
right.
planning on
Cool.
it tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Australian time is 8:30 a.m. And over, if you're in the Scandinavia kind of area, I believe it is 12:30 p.m. 12:30 a.m. in the morning.
Ooh.
So yes, or 12 p.m. midnight-ish.
Yeah.
Yay! Don't miss it. I've got Steve Gosney coming.
Yes.
Maybe some other special guests. Got these two guys
phrase it.
and MLS. Okay, I don't really know why.
You
That was
said
crazy.
you had Steve Gosney coming.
Oh God, you're such a child.
I know. I'm immature. I'm covering
You
a
really
trial full
are.
of penis.
Child.
What was your first clue?
Well,
Anyways, yeah, we're gonna go.
Thank you,
but yeah,
everyone.
check out EU tomorrow, and thank you, Jamie, for being
MG
here.
Law next.
Yes.
and
Bye.